Welcome to the BudsnReality show. I'm Sean Collins, the guy with a lot to say, and I'm here with a very cool guest. She is known as Lysander Spooner, reincarnated. Donnie Anthony, aka Donnie the Don. If I could talk today, that would be great. How are you?
I am fantastic. Sometimes I just feel a little exhausted, but by the grace of God, I keep on chugging along.
You are a busy girl. You are doing a lot of things behind the scenes and out in the open. Um, why don't we start with telling us a little bit about what you're doing and what you're about and how you got there? That's important too.
Gotcha. You know, when we were kids and you think about when you see bullies, right? You know, you get that strong emotion inside of you, like you got to do something. You can't just sit by and keep watching it because then you feel guilty for not doing anything. Like you're a part of that. And so I've been sitting there watching politics for quite some time and paying attention to it, but I wasn't really active in it. But then over time, I'm just watching things get worse and worse, and more of our rights going away, and us having to pay more and more money to the government, getting robbed. And so for me, okay, guys, I was once MAGA. Don't hold that against me. But I saw where I thought the movement was about something. Republicans are good at lying about liberty and freedom and the Constitution, and they're not. And so me, I feel like as a genuine person in this for liberty and freedom for everybody and justice for everybody, that they're not for that. And so they show that to me at the national level, and they show it to me at the local level and in the state level, that they are not who they claim to be. And so I'm like, okay, all right, well then what can I do as an individual or the connections that I have? Because my account grew heavy like when I was MACA. And so I could have just kept saying the same things I was saying before so I can keep getting more followers and people not disagreeing with me. But I already knew by speaking the truth that they were going to not like me and unfollow me or try to attack me or whatever, even in person, locally, or on the internet. So my whole thing was like, okay, we look at what I guess the quote unquote founding fathers, and I'm talking about the anti-federalist side of them, what their goal was. And I'm just looking at here today, what can I do? So I work with different groups of people who are targeted and no one really talks about. Or like we did Emmett Domain. We went to the Emmett Domain and spoke out there on behalf of the Moses Roses bar because they're trying to steal that man's property. So I guess a lot of things I'm doing has to do a lot of property stuff. I'm also working with the game foul community. They're being heavily targeted. You got these animal rights terrorism groups. I'm going to call them that because that's how they behave. And they are colluding with the government, local, state, and federal, to take away y'all's rights. And the thing is so interesting about that is this is what's so important. You guys hear adopt, don't shop all the time, but those dogs or cats that you're getting, they're spraying and neutering those animals. They can't reproduce. In the same time, they're attacking dog breeders, and they call them like puppy mills. So therefore, those are gone. So eventually, they want you not to own animals at all, have no pets at all. You have to depend on the big chain corporations or the government, and you don't have access to them anymore. Over time, that's going to happen if people don't wake up and realize this. But I consistently speak in front of different audience and groups of people, educating what their rights are. Also learning more about their industry, what I can do to help, because I get people who will send me text messages. This happened to such and such. What can we do? I recently was in Arkansas and got to speak with some amazing libertarians. I got this shirt from Dakota out there, and they sat there and let us speak with the guy who was targeted in Hot Springs County, Jose. And so we told their story to them. So my whole goal is to keep doing what I'm doing, but find allies along the way, because the better off we are with more of us. Because yes, we are the minority, but we're supposed to be protected under a republic. But we still, as the tiny minority we need to ally with other folks who think like us, because we're not alone. There's a lot of people. I'm talking about hundreds of people at these events. I spoke at an El Gallo show and it had at least 2,500 to 3,000 people there. About half of them, or 75% of them, were Mexican or Hispanic descent. And so I had a translator because I don't speak Spanish
Okay.
frequently at all. And I got to speak about our natural human rights to them. They understand that they're being targeted. And by the way, you guys, they are targeting the Hispanic community very heavy down south. And that sheriff that did what he did to Jose, that department, he's Republican. So people got to realize that, hey, don't wait until it happens to you to care about it. You got to start caring now, because eventually it's going to come to your front door. And that's why I do what I do, get the message out, because I don't want anyone to need our help or need people like us to be on your side when you don't know your rights and you're already sitting in a cage and you have no idea what to do. You need a hire an expensive attorney, paying court fees, been kidnapped and thrown in a cage. It is, the time is now. The things that have gone in the past, it's just been sugarcoated like this is normal. This is not normal. This is not freedom. We are slaves to this damn system, and it's time we fight it back.
Amen. I've been preaching that for a long time too. Like, it's you brought up some allies though. And has it been difficult to find allies in this fight? Because I found it very difficult to get people on the libertarian train, let alone the anarchist train. I think that's a big jump for some people, but just to get them on the libertarian side of things, I mean, I've turned some heads for sure. But most people just think I'm a lunatic at that point. And they're like, oh my God, what you're doing is crazy. I can't believe you're doing it. I mean, do you get a lot of that? Or do you get like a lot more people saying, hey, I dig what you're doing. Let's talk about it?
Actually, I'll say this. When a group of people realize that both parties are their enemy, it's so much easier. So the game fowl breeders, the animal owners, the livestock owners, the farmers, the cattlemen, all of those people are looking at the legislation, because we always pull the legislation out and we're sharing. I'm reading. Actually, I got a bill right there. I moved it from my table. I got bills printed off that I'm reading. These people are signing into law. They'll see who the co-sponsors are, the sponsors. They'll see Democrat, Republican on there, and they're like, "Well, what the heck do we do?" They have the party they've been loyal to for so long, but then they start having people like myself and the people I work in organizations pulling up these bills with both parties bipartisan trying to take their rights away, and they're targeted. So I'm like, introduce them to Libertarian Party. I talk with Libertarian Party. I read things like from Lysander Spooner to them during my speeches, and they like it, they love it. And I'm telling them, they're like, stop just only, yes, stop only just looking at the national level. This problem is very much so local, and if the federal government tries to get involved, at least you have a local government that should protect you from it. So that's the big thing there. But they realize that both sides are their enemies, so that's made it really easy for me to make allies. And I'm talking about these a lot of allies with these groups. And I got a little win recently. I won't go into details. In the state capital in Texas, I actually made a few friends in that capital. But you'll never guess they were a Democrat. It wasn't a Republican.
Wow. Okay. Very nice.
Yep. Got their
Those
phone
are the
number.
harder ones to steer. Those are the harder ones to steer, I think.
Well, when it comes to like criminal justice, more like Democrats are a little more open to working with you than Republicans.
Very true. That's
And a,
definitely true.
and a lot of Republicans are the ones introducing these bills, going after people who they so-called think that farmers should vote for them and everything. But the Republicans are a lot of the ones writing these bills too. So it's about bipartisan on this. It's not, oh, Democrats are doing it more. They're about even.
Well, it's kind of funny because, people get stuck in their ways and they don't really want to think outside the box. And,
Mm-hmm.
you like to, all of us, libertarians, anarchists, ANCAPers, whatever, we like to point out all the flaws in what they're doing. And some people really don't want to hear it. And I feel like as of recent, and, I might catch a lot of hell for this, but I feel like the GOP and or the Republican Party has become a lot more authoritarian than the Democrats have been as of recent. I just feel that way. And I've actually attacked them and offered to debate them many times, and nobody will come at me. I really wish they would,
You know what's so funny about that? You say that. You know that Zeke guy, that black guy who's a cop who gets a lot of clout from the Republicans?
Yes.
Okay, remember I reposted him because he's like, oh my gosh, another big name person who's mad at me for standing with the police or whatever, and they blocked me for that. No, man, I blocked you because you unfollowed me on both my accounts, and we were supposed to be friends. And the thing is, a while back last year when I first started doing my podcast, he was supposed to come on there. A couple times he had to reschedule, I understand that. And then never came on to debate me. But he got mad at me on the comment section because I like to post and agree with what someone has said about the police's position and what they're supposed to be doing. And so when you explain this to people, you would think, hey, okay, I'm doing something wrong. No, it is about authority. They want you to respect their authority. Hell, I posted that video of the guy flipping off that cop, and them arresting him for that. These people don't understand, like, oh, I stand with the state. So you're a redcoat. Like, imagine back in the day, and before 1776 happened. Back in the day, if a patriot who's sitting there trying to fight for their actual rights, the crown's doing what they're doing over there, and people like, oh, well, I back the redcoats. That's exactly what the people are doing today. It's insanity to me. And how can you say you stand for liberty and freedom, but you're okay with someone creating laws and the legislative branch and the police enforcing them with any means necessary? If they create that law, there is a chance you will die for not obeying it. That is the ultimate totalitarianism. That is crazy to me. And people want to claim they're for liberty and freedom and have patriot on profiles. Take that damn patriot off your page. Take 1776 off your page. You're not included in that conversation.
Well, it's because, you know, a lot of people believe, and it's from both sides and from all angles, that freedom and liberty is only for their team, per se. And so their rules apply and the other ones don't. When really freedom and liberty means, in its true form, like, people have the liberties to do things you don't agree with.
Exactly.
That's what liberty is. And it's uncomfortable for a lot of people, but that's what it is in a nutshell. I had a great conversation with Derek Wills, who wrote the Liberty Solution, about that. Because I mean, that's what his whole book was based on, the Liberty Solution.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's kind of like, you know, somebody saying there's an alcoholic in town, right? And I think he wrote this in his book even. And he goes to a bar and they know that he's an alcoholic, so they refuse to serve him. But who are they to say he can't drink if he's not hurting anybody? You know, it's his body to do such things. You don't get to make that choice for him. I know that sounds kind of shitty, but at the end of the day, that's his choice. That's his life. And if he's not infringing on anybody else's rights, you know, he can drink.
And that's the thing that people understand too. Like, I'm gonna bring up another point. Lysander Spooner talks about vices are not crimes. So people sitting there trying to enforce their opinion on other people because they don't like it. That's not up to you. Are they hurting someone else? Did they kill someone else? Did they destroy their property? Have they done fraud against you? No? Then leave them the fuck alone. The vices people have, and everyone has a vice. Anybody can make a law against any kind of vice anyone has, and they won't like it. Say if they, you know, they already went after smokers, you know, tobacco, you know, they go after people with marijuana, weed, or anything that people want to do to enjoy, relax, or just be a human being. They want to outlaw it. Or what's that called again? Sin tax. That too.
Yep. Yep, it's crazy. And it's, you know, you keep bringing up Spooner, and I actually love that because I'm a Spooner guy myself, you know, and anybody who's read it, and I'm going to show the book again, No Treason, The Constitution and No Authority. I urge everybody to read it. It was a total game changer for me. But it's been, you know, this book was published in 1867. Okay. And at that point, you know, Spooner was an authoritarian philosopher. I can't talk today for some reason. And, you know, he was calling out the government back in 1867, saying, you know, I didn't sign this constitution, and who has the right to have authority over me? Like, no man or woman or government really has the right to tell others what to do. It's just not how it works.
Right. And then too, he says, well, we have this constitution, which never before the 13th Amendment, never legalized slavery or anything. It is nothing that constitution that said a man could own another human being. Also, Lysander Spooner was an abolitionist, very much so. He actually wrote a letter to the South, who did not own slaves, and gave them some ideas on what to do to solve the problem on their own without the government. And also, he called out the Republican Party. Oh, he hated the Republican Party. He's like, how dare y'all act like you guys preserve the Union and y'all did some great thing by freeing, quote unquote, freeing the slaves, when that was not what happened. That's not what you guys did. And there was a party called the Liberty Party that actually sponsored one of Spooner's work. So he's kind of tied with the Liberty Party in a sense, but Spooner is so interesting is like he was around during that time frame. And so, and the fact is, like, the Black community don't know about him, but they know about Lincoln. You know what I mean? People who actually did want slavery to go away, who actually wanted people to have rights, but Lincoln didn't care about that. He's like, hell, send them back to Africa, and they gave reparations to slave owners. So it's like, so people are talking about Abraham Lincoln as supposed to be some kind of political demigod in this country, where people don't know who Lysander Spooner is. I did not learn about him at all when I was in school. Nothing. But I knew about John Locke because I took philosophy courses. So when I was in school, so it's just Spooner is freaking amazing. He took on the Congress, with his postal service, and them trying to act like they were the only ones who could do it. If y'all, I'm quite sure people in your audience know about Lysander Spooner, but like you guys got to really check him out. It really helps the discussion, arguments. The fact that is, we never agreed to some kind of contract people from the 1700s did to tell us we had to listen and obey that. And there's nothing. And the fact is, like, there's historically every 19 years laws are supposed to be reviewed or abolished or start all over again. Where this has been sitting here forever, and just the government's been growing and growing and growing. And then the Congress has given themselves power, the executive branch has given themselves power, and the judges have decided to interpret the law the way they see fit. Because why don't you look at the Federalist Papers, what their intention was on what they put in that Constitution, opposed to them making up what they want to. This government is out of control. I said, you knock like that guy with the chainsaw over in Argentina with a chainsaw, knock it all down, start over. If your foundation, your house is falling, your roof is all everywhere, you don't just try to rebuild it and patch it up. You knock the whole thing down and start all over, or don't start all over at all.
And right, and Ron Paul pointed this out actually, and then the Fed, that the Constitution was actually very poorly written and has a ton of loopholes in it. I mean, that came from Ron Paul's mouth. And, that being said, they've used the Constitution and its loopholes to actually do exactly the opposite of what it's intended to do. Like you said, the government's gotten nothing but bigger when that piece of paper was really supposed to keep them in check and in line. And it's done none of the above. Look at what they've done to the First Amendment, the Second Amendment. I mean, all the amendments really. People, shall not infringe should be taken very seriously. I mean, I know that's the wrong Gatlin flag right there, but I mean, don't mess with our guns. That's how I feel. But, a lot of people from the left actually will say, it says well-regulated militia. Well, who the fuck gets to regulate that, and who gets to say that it's well-regulated? That's something right there in the wording that's like, hey, red flag, who gets to decide what's well-regulated? We do, not the government. And shall not infringe should be taken extremely seriously. And there's plenty of other things in the Constitution. Like right now, the big thing, you see people fighting over Twitter about the 19th Amendment and how it should be repealed. As a woman, how do you feel about that?
Well, honestly, the government didn't give me my rights in the first place, so repeal it.
Well, yeah, exactly. because everybody wants to
I think the problem is when women do it, it looks like it's for attention. Okay, that's one piece of it, and they don't explain it from the perspective of, well, the government never gave my rights in the first place. I have rights as a human being in the first place. They just say repeal the 19th, and they don't ever go into it at all. And by the way, the 9th Amendment covers all the other stuff. Just because it wasn't listed doesn't mean it's not right. So honestly, we really didn't need to get past the 10th because they already had that in there, the 9th Amendment.
And everybody go read the 10th Amendment and read it a lot. And I'm not going to tell it to you. I want you to go read it for yourselves seriously and read it over and over and over again. Yes,
read the 10th, but also read the 9th and research it, because basically the 9th Amendment is basically saying just because it wasn't listed as a right, that it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So, and also religious, we go through all the different clauses in each of these amendments. The First Amendment has a bunch of stuff listed in the clauses that people don't realize. So when, people are arguing about, oh, well, we need to have the prayer in school and, do all this and everyone has to participate. The government is not allowed to enforce that on people. This is especially if it's a public school, they were never allowed to do it. We're just used to it because that's how we grew up and that was normal. But that was never a constitutional thing to do. And that's coming from someone who does believe in God.
Well, that's because they're not public schools, they're government schools. And I'll even go to far as saying that they're government indoctrination camps. We've been indoctrinated, our American history is a mess. If you've gone to, like all of us, like me, and gone to public school, anything, and like I said before, we need to learn how to read and write and do math and stuff like that. That's all important. But when it comes to American history in the government school system, it's super sketchy because not only, as you get older, you find all the lies that are in it, but it always shows that we're the winners in it. And so
Always.
the winners always get the right. And if the winners are writing the history books, how is there any way to combat that? And when I had the Infinite Zeal on my show, my sponsor, thank you, sir. But, we
What's
talk about
up?
what's up. I know, Z, but,
I like him.
we talk about, Abraham Lincoln and how that was a spoon-fed lie to us, and how we were told that he freed the slaves and everything was fine after that. And when really Abraham Lincoln was a racist tyrant who wanted to deport people, black people to Liberia, and started wars to collect taxes.
Yep.
Like,
He was no bueno. He was not. Neither was the Republican Party in general about any of that. All they cared about was their power, maintaining the power, and how could they financially benefit? How can the federal government benefit actually financially from the slavery? Good old tariffs and things like that. So the South has got all this wealth coming in, and then boom, let's find out how we can make some more money off of it too. That was another one of the reasons why the South started getting mad too about that. But it's crazy to me who people are told to like who to quote unquote worship for certain things and who they have been ignored. And that's what's going on today. It's going to always happen because who has the power? Republicans and Democrats. When you have people out there really fighting, like someone like Spike Cohen, they don't highlight all the great things that Spike Cohen's doing. People have no idea unless we're out there sharing it and posting it. But everybody look over here at Candace Owens, or look over here at AOC, or look at MTG, and it's like, for what? They're not actually doing anything for the people. They're working on the behalf of their bosses, and they're being paid to sell their narratives on their behalf. And so people who are actually doing good work don't get recognized. And I try my best when I go back in history to try to dig out certain names and find certain people. Like we know about Frederick Douglass, but there's another guy out there. Mercer is his last name, I believe. And now I should have already written that down. His last name is Mercer, and he actually worked heavy with the Liberty Party. He actually, when they list him, they call
Frederick?
him, huh?
What's his name? Frederick Mercer? Is that?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay.
He was really intelligent and really smart, and so he eventually did work for Ulysses Grant, but because the Liberty Party wasn't there anymore. But they always just act like he was Republican. And by the way, Frederick Douglass actually worked with them too, but they only correlate him with the Republicans. And that's interesting to me. These people, and he was part of that little Liberty Party at the local level. He's elected official before the Civil War was over. They don't talk about that, and they talk in the Reconstruction era when they had a lot of people a lot of black people were free. So there's a lot of people who can vote and vote for people who look like them. Never talk about them being in Congress, and they were part of making that 14th Amendment happen. So it's just insane to me. And they say, Republicans saved them, but they pulled the troops out. They didn't finish Reconstruction era. And then they had the Lily White movement, which is like, you know what? We don't want black people in power. We want just white people. And it changed. So the whole big switch, or with the Republicans arguing this or arguing that, Democrats, same thing. They're both lying. They want to both look a particular way. But I'll tell you one thing. Libertarians had never owned a slave. They ain't never tried to infringe people's rights. They didn't do discrimination or any of that. So why not work with the parties with the ideology that actually benefits your groups? And I've been talking to people about it. The black community, not like I don't talk to them like every single day. I'm in the middle of nowhere. But when I do talk to the community, our community, it's something they're open to, because they're like, I'm not voting anymore. I'm done with Democrats, and I'll be damned if I ever vote Republican. So you guys have another home. It's called the Libertarian Party. Why not? Why not? Because a lot of them are entrepreneurs as well.
Yes.
So you want a free market. You don't want all those regulations, what makes it harder for you to make it and your business to thrive. And the system we have today, which is not capitalism. It's not a free market. We do not have that.
Not at all. And I'm glad you brought that up, because, and since, we're talking about it, the rules and regulations of the free market, that's quote unquote free, actually keeps black and brown people down. Like, for instance, how can somebody start a business with all the money that they have to, come up front? And this is for poor people or anyone really involved, in anything, the government regulations. So say you want to start a landscape business, which is a big thing out where I live. I'm just outside Detroit. Most of the people have to do it under the table. They can't start a business because they don't have the money for licensing. And then if you don't have the licenses, you can't get the business loans.
I wonder who started this idea of licensing people's rights. Let me take this away from you and give it back to you with some money. Like, people don't see how corrupt that is.
There should be no regulations on business whatsoever. If you want to go start and cutting hair, go cut hair. If you want to cut grass, go cut grass. If the market was actually free and you didn't know what the fuck you were doing, trust me, the free market's going to whittle you right out, especially with social media.
Exactly.
People go pop off at the mouth and be like, don't use so-and-so because they do a horrible job. You know, like that's me as a painter. Luckily for me, I don't need a license, but there was a time where you did. You needed to be a licensed painter. Florida just lifted that regulation for painters. They had to have licenses down there. And for what? The people are going to find out whether you know what you're doing or not real quick. You know, especially in that line of work. I mean, if you can't cut a straight line, or if you're making a mess all over somebody's floor, people are going to figure out real quick you don't know what's going on.
Exactly.
You know, but because there's regulations and such in the market, you know, that's, you know, libertarians are not about licensing and meddling in the market. Let it be free. Let the free market be free, because no matter what, the free market will work itself out, you know?
Right.
And
then that's the thing. Then these politicians wouldn't have any thing to campaign on, because it should not matter who is in office if we have a real free market. It shouldn't matter our gas prices if Biden or Trump is the president, if we actually have a free market, but we don't.
well, the gas price thing is hilarious just because, you know, they know what they're doing and they do this shit on purpose. And I remember the first time, you know, I started driving in the mid 90s, you know, and gas was 88 cents a gallon. You can get gas for 88 cents in 1996. And then it stayed that way for quite a while until about 1999. And I remember it jumped up to about $1.86 and everybody lost their mind. Oh my God, gas is almost $2 a gallon. And that went on for a while. And then they finally got it down. And I remember when they got it down, it was about $1.39. And so that was like the new norm at that point. It was their way to inflate the price, you know, and make people feel good about it. They had to raise it so high to get it back down to where they really wanted it, which is what they did last summer when gas was, you know, astronomical. I know here in Detroit, it was over $5 a gallon. I think it got to like $5.59 a gallon here in Detroit. It was gross. I was spending, you know, in order to run my business and get my wife to work every month, I was spending roughly $700 a month in gasoline. And now it's down to $3.79, and they're supposed to, you know, pat themselves on the back and feel good about it.
No, it kiss my black ass. Hell no. That's ridiculous. And the thing is that what's that going to do too is, what if you want to fly somewhere? What if you take a train, travel? And a lot of people don't live in the same state sometimes as their family anymore. So how are we going to go see each other if it's that expensive to go and see each other? So it's just limiting our travel as well because it's too expensive to do it.
Yeah, but that's just, you know, it's just another situation where they're meddling in it, you know, and they'll be like, well, the companies are price gouging. Well, very well so, quite possibly, but they're being told to do so by the powers that be. Don't think that big oil in the federal government are holding hands. They're like best buddies, you know. And you know, and it goes like that everywhere, you know, the price fixing, and they call it price fixing. They literally call it price fixing when they have no business being in the market like that. Like, why should the government be regulating prices? You know, it's more tyranny. we
are already in a socialism government. Like, they don't, people on the right, like, oh, the left are socialists. Like, both parties are running this government, and it's socialism. When they control your personal life, they control the economy, they control every aspect of your life. That is socialism. So what are people talking about? Well, we're afraid of this y'all electing a socialist. Or, oh, you probably saw this one too. Oh, so if you guys are the reason why these Democrats get in office. What? I hate it. I hate it, but it's hilarious when the people want to point blame at libertarians for Democrats getting elected or Republicans getting elected, whoever wants to blame us for it that day. But you notice I never really go after the Green Party. I never see it really. I don't ever really see I didn't see Alex Jones or Steven Crowder or any of those people, or Ali. Oh, by the way. Remember when Ali attacked the Libertarian Party as soon as he got his account back?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Everybody attacks libertarians. We're like public enemy number one, really. It's crazy. Even Trump tried to blame
I'm telling
libertarians.
you,
He lost. That was his
I'm
first
I'm
vote.
telling you right now, the libertarians are having way more votes than they say. There's no way in hell they're just worried about a party that's quote unquote only gets 1% of the vote. Bullshit. There's something else going on. Libertarians must be doing a lot better behind the scenes because they can see the real numbers. They do a lot better for them to be in Texas, trying to make it harder for them to get on the ballot. In Montana, you probably saw where Noah put that up there, but Montana is trying to keep them from making it to Senate races. So if we're so much of a threat, then why do the numbers reflect the threat that they're asking for? With them trying to keep people off the ballot.
Well, I mean, there's a reason why they do that. And look what they did to Larry Sharp. I mean, he just talked about it on the last show. I mean, they literally screwed him to keep him off the ballot. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that, and they do that time and time again. Now, libertarians are on the ballot in Michigan. And I know they're on the ballot in Georgia, and they're on the ballot in a lot of states, but there's also a lot of states that they got to jump through all kinds of hoops just to get on there. And even if they do jump through the hoops, then they just get sued by the other parties and they lose because either they run out of money or they paid the judges off to give the duopoly their way, and it's really foul how they treat us. And the fact of the matter is they're intimidated by us because we are growing. We're the largest growing party, period. Like Republicans aren't growing the way libertarians are. Democrats aren't growing the way libertarians are. We're making a lot of noise, but because they have all the money, they are able to keep us quiet. And at some point, that has to stop.
I think that'd be really interesting if those independents, which is 40%, is more than both, Democrats are about 27%, Republicans about 27%, and then you have the independents that are about 41%. If they're independents because they actually like liberty and freedom, then we could take a nice chunk of those folks away, the ones who are registered voters. And those who just like to swing back and forth, they're authoritarians. People gotta understand that the independents don't mean they're independent. They're Republican and Democrat basically. But those who will be willing to vote for the best candidate, the best party, that percentage of the independents can come on to us. There's 77 million people who are age qualified to vote that the Libertarian Party could be talking to and reaching out to get them to vote. Because the thing is, people don't want to go and vote because there's no one they believe in like that. But if with the Libertarian getting more exposure, Libertarian Party getting more exposure, going on Tamcast and going on all these different Joe Rogan, people seeing more of them, they'll probably be like, let's lean a different way. So, and here's my other thing with the Republicans when they talk about, oh, third parties can't make it, haha, that's why y'all don't win. Y'all are gun ho on having a Patriot Party when the whole thing happened with Trump. So if you didn't think that was a possibility, then how come y'all are talking about doing the Patriot Party? They still got them lions on their profile picture talking about the Patriot Party.
I laughed at that actually because I'm like, you know what? Good luck to you. Good luck trying to get a third party out there. We've been trying to do it for a very long time and it's not a very fun task. And if you want to go and spend all your money, knock yourselves out, it's still not going to happen because at the end of it's all a numbers game now. You learn from Larry Sharp that running for elected office is all about money and whoever's got the most money to campaign is going to win. That's exactly how it works. And, it's gross. It's unfortunate, but we
that's the people's fault. That's our fault because instead of doing our due diligence and researching each candidate before making a decision, we go off name recognition. We go off Democrat, Republican instead of looking at the other options. When I voted in 2020, I saw Spike Cohen and I did see Mama Joe on that ballot. So you can't say you didn't know who they were. When I say, oh, I want Spike Cohen to run and be our president with Larry Sharp as VP, people are like, oh, who is that? I'm sorry, if you voted in a state where libertarians are on your ballot, you should know who those people are because you probably should have researched them first before you decided to make a decision on who you were voting for.
Well, it's because people are duped into thinking this is all they have, and a lot of people fall for that. And they're great at doing it. I mean, they've duped us since the beginning. Both parties have totally duped us. I mean, there's no getting around that. And they do it on the daily. Like right now, the GOP is great. They're great to mess with on social media because, they love to right now, they're talking about fiscal responsibility. That's their thing. and they're complaining about Biden spending all the time. Well, the Republican-led House just raised the debt by $1.5 trillion so Biden can spend some more money. So tell me how that's fiscally responsible. Oh, and people soon forget that, their Lord and Savior, Donald Trump, I hate to put it like that, but that's how people treat these people, especially him. Donald Trump spent between 6.5 trillion and $7 trillion in his 4 years of presidency. I remember being mad when George Bush spent about $5.5 trillion in 8 years. Trump spent almost $7 trillion in 4 years here, and they want to complain about Biden's spending. Now, don't get me wrong, Biden's spending is out of control. It really is. It's bad. But don't be saying shit like that when you don't mean it. We all know you don't mean it. Or maybe they don't know, that they don't mean it. Who's to say? And the same thing with like Democrats and socialized healthcare. They've been preaching that forever. And they could have done that when Obama was in office, when they had control of the House, the Senate, and the presidency. They could have totally ran the socialized healthcare. They didn't. They're duping us. They do this shit all the time.
And it's so crazy because we're the ones who are helping the Democrats or helping the Republicans, but they're helping each other. So if you have an issue with your party helping someone else, well, y'all got to get mad at both parties helping each other. I mean, I do remember Lindsey Graham fist bumping Kamala Harris back in 2020. I do recall there's a lot of bipartisan bills that they don't talk about publicly. They only talk about things that they're completely against with each other. But a lot of these other bills that they're trying to pass through Congress or state level legislators, they're on board together. Like in Texas, with how the fact that the Texas Republicans have the majority. Why do y'all have Democrats on your committees? When I ran for office, the so-called Republicans and their so-called Republican groups and the groupies, they voted for a Democrat, knowing he was a Democrat.
Because
so
it's the same.
They're like, well, what is it said? Well, the local is different with the mayor seat or the council seat because we don't have Democrat Republican on there. Well, you still know who they are and what they stand for. You still voted for them because you can look at the primary voting record when they vote only Democrat, but then you turn around, oh, he was a cop. Oh, he's a businessman. He's successful, but he's most certainly a Democrat. So this is my thing with these two parties. They're both evil. Regardless if you choose one that you think is lesser or not, you decided to choose evil. You said, well, if you can't beat them, then join them. So that goes back to my point about the bullies. I can't stand with bullies at all. And my thing is, I've seen some libertarians endorse Republicans, and no, Republicans are not endorsing libertarians. You got to stop that. We are libertarians. We got to support the Libertarian Party, or we're not going to go anywhere.
I wish I could remember his name. That was the dude in Arizona that was running for governor.
Yeah, and he was not that great to me. He was not that great to me, and it's like. And my thing is, I get it. It's a little harder to find candidates for every seat across the United States with Libertarian Party. I get that. But the thing is, if we're working in our local communities and doing certain things together, you guys know who you want to actually be in that seat. You already have someone, and you can decide, hey, I want you to run for our mayor's seat or our council seat or our county commissioner seat. We want you for that spot because we're already working together. You know who they are. And then y'all just go and vote for that person and support them. And that's going to cost them less money for marketing and getting their names out there because they're already working with y'all. So normally it's the people who don't want to run for office are going to be the best people because they're not there for power or any malicious intent.
Yeah, and I'm glad you're saying the whole local thing because change starts locally.
Yeah.
The federal government's not going to change. They're not going to change their ways. They're going to keep getting bigger and bigger, at least try anyways, as long as we keep allowing it, because this is actually mostly our fault too for allowing this shit to go on so long. But local is how you make change happen, because then once you get the right people in your local offices, then we can start talking about the nullification process, which is an amazing, amazing thing. I'm a big proponent of it. Me and Larry talked about it on the last show. Nullify, man. Nullify all the unconstitutional laws that the federal government pushes. They did something in a local county in Metro Detroit here, Livingston County. They just passed a bunch of, or they haven't quite passed it yet, but it's going to pass because this is a full commie state here in Michigan now. They're going to pass a bunch of red flag gun laws. It's going to happen. You know, they have all the seats, all the Democrats own everything, and they're far left Democrats that are out here, man. I mean, it's crazy. And the Livingston County just voted and said, we won't be enforcing this, none of it. And I'm like, that's how it goes. That's how it starts. That's nullification right there. You know, the same thing
Right.
with, you know, if you're going to be a local mayor or a local, you know, or even be, you know, the governor of your state, you can go to the local sheriffs and be like, hey, we're going to leave peaceful people alone. We're not going to arrest people for doing dumb shit anymore. If they're not hurting anybody or taking their stuff or violating private property, leave them alone. We don't need to be filling our jails up. It costs money. You know, a lot of people don't understand, like it costs roughly $30,000 a year to house an inmate in the prison system. How is that fiscally responsible for, you know, a guy that was carrying a plant around in his car per se? That's ridiculous.
A natural plant that grows from the earth.
Yes.
That now the government says you can't have it. To me, they put themselves above the creator then at this point.
Oh, yeah, you got that right, because anything that grows from the ground came from God. That didn't just mysteriously show up. We didn't genetically make marijuana. We didn't genetically make psilocybin. It came from the ground. Hell, coca plants, that wasn't genetically made. That grows from the earth too. Now I feel a little different about cocaine, but I mean, I understand the ending the prohibition and the drug war. I do want to end all that. But I mean, as far as if it comes out of the ground, how is it illegal? How can you say you're more powerful than the creator?
They should make poison ivy illegal because, you know, it makes people have rashes and they're all itchy, you know. So it's illegal for you to touch poison ivy because it'll hurt you.
Exactly. And that's another thing. Like, how can you tell me what I can put in my own body? If I'm not hurting anybody or doing no harm, it doesn't matter what the hell I'm doing with myself. It's me. I'm doing it. And if I'm peacefully doing dope in my house, what's the harm in that? But you can have the feds kick in your door. I mean, marijuana is legal here in Michigan, but that doesn't mean the Fed boys, the FBI or something couldn't come to my house while I'm taking bong rips on my couch and kick the door in and take me away, you know, because it's a different animal. And that's insane.
Yeah. It is insane that someone would want to shoot you and kill you over, I'm sorry, I saw something on my screen, or over a plant. When they create these laws, like I said, if they create a law, there's a possibility they will kill you over it if you don't obey. And so people got to stop doing that. That's not free. It's not freedom. This whole, let's celebrate 4th of July. I think coming up 4th of July, we should be mourning. The people who know better should come together and mourn that we don't have freedom in this country. That's what we should be doing. We'll still eat barbecue. We'll see hot dogs, but we're going to need a moment of silence because, you know, Liberty been dead for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's because
they have never even been here before. So, to be honest with you,
you know, it's crazy. You know, they tell us how or where or what we can do for work. They tell us how or who we can marry or love. They tell us how, you know, we have to manage our money. You know, how is that free?
That's not.
There's no freedom in that. They steal our money. They literally, anybody who's on a payroll, who's not a 1099 person and has a 9-to-5 job where the taxes are taking it out, they're taking it. They're stealing the money from your paycheck. Literally. Who consented to that?
You know, I saw this interesting meme. It was very powerful. And it was showing animals in cages or a crate, right? Being put together in one spot. And it showed the ones that are walking around freely. And they all get their food and water. But there's this illusion because we can go walk out freely and do what we want to that we're free. Both of them were, you know, not out freely. They actually had an owner. But the thing is, people don't understand just because you're not in a cage in a prison somewhere given shit for food to eat, and you know, and that's inhumane, that's giving you that crap to put in your body to eat, and they throw you in a cage, and you're actually getting to walk around freely, you're not really free, because as soon as you don't do what they tell you to do, they're going to throw you in that cage. That cage has got your name written on it whenever you decide to speak up, or a grave as well. Or if you're going to be put in a container for your ashes. So, I mean, you may have those choices. My other big thing I have a problem with is insurance. Insurance is supposed to be just in case. just in case. So why in the hell are we enforcing insurance on people for just in case? Then don't call it insurance anymore. Call it a damn tax, because you're forcing people to buy insurance, health, car insurance, business insurance. It's supposed to be just in case. It's not supposed to be, oh, it's required. Then that's not insurance anymore. Change the definition.
Oh, you're preaching to the choir right now. You know, I live just outside of Detroit, and what I pay for my car insurance and my homeowner insurance is not even Christian. I haven't had a claim on my car insurance or my homeowner's insurance ever. Not since I was a kid, you know what I mean? And I've never had one on my house. And now let me just put this in perspective for you. I live in an 1,100 square foot shack. I don't have a big house. Okay.
Mm.
Now, my buddy who lives in a nice, nice rural area, a very nice house, big, good, close to 3,000 square foot house. His homeowner's insurance is half of what I pay. And his house is much bigger, much more valuable. But because of the area I'm in, I just get to bend over and take it. They don't even spit on it before they screw me.
Just raw.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Disrespectful.
And the same thing, like I used to live in a more of a rural area where, I used to rent this condo with my wife, and our car insurance, once we moved up here, my car insurance jumped up $120 immediately.
Wow. They are trying to force people into the cities too. All these rural people, them trying to go after them for dumb stuff and throwing them in cages, and all these private entities buying up all this land. It's just they want it all clustered, just like the peasant days when the feudalism, where you have the kings, the queens, and then there are people that they go to underneath them in the military. And then you have the peasants. Then you have us, and people. People think that we're like this. We have the same thing that other countries have. It just, is an illusion that we have freedom. And so that's the other thing when I say the founding fathers, and I say the anti-federalist ones, because I feel like the ones I'm like, be crazy. When I went back and was researching and relearning my history again. Wouldn't it be something if our founding fathers fought off one tyrannical government just so they can be the new rulers? Well, hello, Hamilton and Madison and Adams and George Washington, all of them. The ones like Samuel Adams and Patrick Henry and George Mason were the ones that were fought heavily. That's the only reason why we have a Bill of Rights. Those people didn't want a Bill of Rights. The anti-federalists are the ones who got us our Bill of Rights.
But does the Bill of Rights even mean anything anymore?
Nothing means anything anymore. Like, didn't you have a story about the prosecutor saying we don't have property rights? They don't even care about our rights at all?
Oh, yeah. So I can't say too much because it's business related, but I ran across somebody through the world that happened to be a prosecutor. And they just flat out said property rights don't matter anymore. They don't mean anything. Because we were talking about how, if somebody was on your property unwelcomed, how you can't shoot them. You can't shoot somebody until they're actually inside your house, whether they're outside threatening you or not.
But I can go to the police station, right? And they can shoot me before I get to the door.
Yes.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I just spoke to a prosecutor lady too in Arkansas, and I asked her about, the practices they have. Like when you're given a ticket for something, say you had a suspended license and you got pulled over. Well, wasn't even pulled over, but let's use an example. And you got pulled over for that, and then you have to get to court so you don't get in trouble for missing court. And then they wait for you to leave court and then get you for the same thing. First of all, that's actually illegal. For y'all to know that's illegal. If anyone does it to you, they've broken the law. They're not supposed to do that. And then two, it's like, I said, is that normal practice for y'all? She said, yeah, because it's like you thumping your nose at the police because you broke the law one time. They gave you a ticket and you turn around and did it again. Excuse me? That's a normal practice? Okay. And then just listening to them. And just go, I'm ask the questions, I'm let them say what they're going to say. Like, okay, got you. And it's recorded.
Yep. I mean, I it's no secret that I was not my best self in my 20s. So I've had some run-ins with the law, unfortunately.
No, I didn't know that. Doesn't matter.
And you know, anybody who listens to the show, I've kind of talked about, I've been pretty vocal because I'm one of those people who've totally just changed. You're never going to catch me in jail again. That's for sure. But I remember a situation. I was 22 years old and I was drunk with my buddies at this kind of fair thing in a small town. And I tripped over the parking block. Literally, I tripped over it, fell on my ass. All of a sudden, I'm surrounded by police asking for my ID. Now, mind you, I got a wristband on, you know, obviously somebody's checked my ID to get in this thing. You can't be in there if you're under 21. And I'm asking them, what do you need to see my ID for? Just give us your ID. And I'm like, well, no, I'm not doing that. And they're like, no, you better give it to us. You better give it to us. And my buddy's like, just give them your ID, dude. And I'm like, no, they're not telling me why they need to see it. I'm like, hey, if you tell me why you need to see my ID, I will gladly give you my ID. Now, in the meantime, somebody that I care about extremely, very, very much, kind of peeps their head in there and says, hey, what's going on? And I said, and the cop said, you know, ma'am, stay back. And so she gets in closer and was like, hey, what's going on? And they shoved her and she fell down. So I snatched that cop up and I was about to let him have it for real. And next thing you know, I'm tackled by a whole gang of them. You know, they're slamming me around and shit. They throw me in the back of the cop car. They arrest my person that I care about extremely very much. It was a family member. Now, what right did they have to treat us like that when all I did was trip over? So what? I was drunk. I was, you know, I'm of age to drink. I didn't hurt anybody. If anything, I hurt myself from tripping over the block.
I mean, you already got your punishment right there. Natural law right there.
You know, so why are you bothering me with this nonsense about seeing my ID? You know, and that was them overstepping their boundaries. And that's kind of where I started to have a big problem with police, especially when they put their hands on a family member like that. Absolutely not. And that's when I was ready to buck, you know. And so needless to say, there was enough witnesses around there to get us out of that because they arrested us both. And there's enough witnesses that said, hey, the cops actually provoked this. You know, he didn't do anything wrong besides fall on his ass. And he didn't even, you know, what's wrong with that? Who hasn't fallen before? And so the courts threw it out, you know, but I had to go through the process, you know, get an attorney, spend a bunch of money, you know, because I couldn't fall on my ass drunk. You know, once again, like that story, you know, about serving the alcoholic or not serving the alcoholic. It doesn't matter. I'm drunk myself. I'm not hurting anybody and they're going to treat me like that. You know, so ever since then, I kind of haven't had the best feeling towards police. There's been other instances where, oh yeah. And the funny thing was, I'll never forget this. And I don't care if people think I'm an asshole or not. While we're in the back of the cop car and he's driving me to jail from this incident, I'm like, hey man, just pull the car over and take these cuffs off. You know, let's throw down. And he's like, shut your mouth, shut your mouth. And I was like, no, for real, pull the car over. I'm like, after we're done, you can take me back to jail, whatever you want to do, but pull the car over, take these cuffs off and let's do this. And all of a sudden he slams on the brakes and my fucking face smashed into the little grate thing in the middle. He's like, I told you to shut the fuck up. And I'm like bleeding out of my face and shit. I'm like, wow.
Assault.
Yeah, right. You know, and I'm sure all the Back to Blue people who are listening will probably say, hey, you should have just kept your mouth shut. And I probably should have, maybe, I don't know, but that should have never even escalated to that point anyways.
So my thing is, I feel like people who think like that are abusive people themselves, because if you feel like you're allowed to physically harm or violate somebody because you don't like something they said, then you probably do that at home with your own kids and your own wife and other people who know you personally. Because even when I was, you know, like I said, MAGA, like I said, to hold it against me, I was never like, oh yeah, it's just okay for the cops to do that to people and hurt people. That's my whole thing. There's bullies. That's what I said. And then there's bullies. There's people who stand by, do nothing, and people who like bullies, or people who don't like bullies, and people who stand up to bullies. So for someone to defend a bully that in school, and you're probably one of the person that was a bully in school, or you stood by and watched when other people got bullied.
I mean, as a ginger, you know, I used to have hair. I'm bald now. You can kind of see the red in my beard now, but as a ginger, you know, I have red hair and freckles. I got made fun of as a kid. That's just what it was, you know. And I remember this guy used to call me Cheetah Boy, which is so funny looking back at it. Looking at it now, it's quite hilarious and quite clever. I think it's funny. But at the time, I was really mad about it. I didn't like it. I was just
Really?
yeah, I was mad. Why
Yeah.
call me Cheetah Boy? You know what I mean? And I'm sure people will call me Cheetah Boy after this on social media. Have fun with it now. I think it's funny. But anyways, I remember going home to my mom and saying, hey, this is going on and I don't like it. And my mom was like, hey, I don't want you to, you know, start anything, but handle your business if you need to handle your business. And so the next day he started that shit again and I handled my business. And that was the last time I ever heard that, until probably now after you guys hear this show and they'll be like hashtag Cheetah Boy, whatever.
It'll make it go viral.
But
I
no,
should-
man,
I
stand
should-
up
I
to the
should-
bully.
I should screenshot our picture and put hashtag Cheetah Boy.
It would be hilarious. I'd welcome it now. You know, I can handle it. Quite funny.
I got made fun of for how I speak and my skin color when I was a kid, but they didn't really bully me because first grade I was always fighting bullies. Almost every day I had a detention. My parents had to come to school. Donnie, we can't keep on leaving work and because you're getting in fights. I know you're fighting people or picking on people, but like you gotta figure out some other way to protect them because you can't keep on getting in these fights and get detentions. I thought it's because I changed how I spoke to people, but I think once you have a cred from not losing fights the previous year, people just tend to leave the people alone that you that they were messing with. So, I mean, a non-aggressive principle does work, but not in essence. Those people had to get their ass whooped because they was picking on all kinds of the kids, like the little white kids. Because that school had more black people in it. They're picking on the little white kids and like the ones who look nerds or whatever. And I'm like, no, you're not gonna be picking on them. Like, what the heck is wrong with you? And I got in fights, and I would be sitting in detention class with my little hair and ponytail stuff sticking up in the air from all the fighting.
Oh, that's funny. But I mean, so it's people like us who have, stuck up to the bullies before, and that's what we're doing now. And there's people from the right side and the left side who are anti-bully, but then they're letting these people bully them. They don't even know that they're being bullied. So we need people like us to let them know, hey, these authoritarians are bullying you around and lying to your face and stealing your money and taking your rights.
Yep.
That's why there's libertarians in the world right now. And that's why we're growing so much, because people are waking up to this shit.
You know what we're going to do in the Liberty Movement and the Libertarian Party? We're the anti-bully party.
That's right.
Boom.
Period.
Can't make that a tweet. We're the anti-bully party.
We are the anti-bully party because we're standing up to the bullies, and if you don't think that the government is bullying you, look, leftists hate guns. Okay. That's just what it is. But then they'll scream from the rooftops that they love the LGBTQ community. They love the Black community, and that, that they're going to do whatever they need to do to get people to stop bullying them. Now, if the government is taking your guns, that means they are bullying the people that you're sticking up for, because armed minorities are harder to oppress.
Yep.
Period.
Yeah, exactly. That's why in the South, they had those black code laws that said, you know what? If you're Black, you can't have a gun or a club, because they wanted the bullies to keep whooping on you. History, people talk about, history can repeat itself. It also rhymes. Like, it's not necessarily just repeating itself. It's rhyming. And it's just a different way this time from back then. We're here physically today where you could actually stop the bullying and let people have their own human anatomy and think for themselves and make their own decisions without someone else bullying them and trying to force them into their beliefs, or else, then how many people are really anti-bullying? Because they're for bullying on both sides, unless they see one of their people getting their asses whipped. That's it.
And the right side does the same thing. They bully their people, into believing, they get their crowd riled up to go against the LGBTQ folks, which is a sense of bullying.
And Black people.
Or Black people. Now.
And people who like anime.
But I will say this, with all the bullying that goes on between both parties, my man Cassie Ramore, who's on Twitter, he's been on the show a couple times, uses this as a talking point when it comes to the government using children to bully their way out of, or bully their way either into one way or another, whether it to be guns or LGBTQ or whatever. And I'm going to read this tweet to you, and I'm going to read what he tweets underneath it to follow it. Republicans use children to pull the heartstrings of the masses to ban LGBTQ lifestyles. Democrats use children to pull the heartstrings of the masses to push gun control. Neither party has your best interest in mind. Now, it follows with this. The state must declare the child to be the most precious treasure of all the people. As long as the government is perceived as working for the benefit of the children, the people will happily endure almost any curtailment of liberty and almost any deprivation. Who said that?
The quote?
Who said the last quote?
You got me. I don't know, it's off my head.
Adolf Hitler. So where do we think we're going here, folks?
I have heard that one, right? Because he wants to, you said that and it reminded me of Hitler and what they were doing. But yeah, that look at what we're doing. My thing is they like to use children, and I've said those same things too. They use the kids for this way or that way. And what's so crazy to me is like people don't see what's going on. With even the other normal settled things like having to register your gun or having to go get permission from the government to buy a gun when you go to the store, and acting like that's not a hard enough. It's not already a big process already. My first time ever buying a gun, no criminal history, no nothing. I had to wait. I had to do the freaking 72-hour thing and then come back to the store and see if they contact them back. I used to work at a pawn shop. I used to sell guns at the pawn shop and had to go fill that paperwork up and call the number on the phone. And I had to wait. For what? To buy a gun. So what if someone was trying to kill me that day? Can my family sue the government for making me wait to be able to protect myself?
Yeah, it's crazy. And it's crazy how they push their narrative from both sides to push their agendas. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it that their agenda is against us.
Right. And also, too, the Republicans love the red flag laws, too. They act like they don't like gun control, and that's bullshit. They do love their asses on gun control. So they use the shootings and stuff that happened to say, well, I'm for your rights and freedoms, but this is a heinous situation. It's a terrible tragedy that happened, so we had to do something. And look at in Florida. People talking about, oh, move to Florida. It's such a free state, this Santa state. And they got red flag laws.
Oh, and they're banning books now, too. Yeah. Who does that? Who used to ban books back in the day? You know what I'm saying? We're not headed in a good direction in this country.
Right.
At all. And it's getting worse by the day. And they will keep passing bills and passing laws and infringing on your rights, no matter what rights they may be, whether you're gay or black or love guns. They're coming after you. There's I don't know how else to put it. They're coming after us, and now's the time to stand up for yourselves. Stand up to the bully right now. Otherwise, we're deep shit.
Absolutely. And people have to understand this too. They see each and every one of you as livestock. There's different kinds of groups of livestock. That's why they say, oh, we need the black vote, or we need the Christian vote, or we need the LGBT vote, we need the Hispanic vote, or the Christian. Like, there's different groups. You're different kind of cattle to them. So that's why they put you in groups and never talk about you as an individual. They only talk, and both parties do it. Oh, Latinos for Trump, blacks for Trump, LGBT people for Trump. And it's just like, this is intentional. You're livestock, and they group you together because they don't look at you as individuals. They see you as a means to more power.
They do. And man, it's great to have somebody that sees it like this, because like I sound like the guy in the meme sometimes when I'm trying to explain people, the guy in the whiteboard when it's all crazy and shit, you know what I mean? And it's nice to have somebody who understands, what it is and what it's really about, and how our freedoms mean nothing, and how being an individual means nothing. They try to say they're pushing individual freedoms with LGBTQ and all that, but really they're just forcing people into a collective. They want us all forced into a collective, whether it's one side's collective or the other side's collective. They don't want you to think as an individual at all. You know, as an individual, you should be choosing your own collective, not being told where to go. You know, that's how, like, libertarians, we have chosen to be this. Nobody was like, hey, you need to be a libertarian, because nobody knows who the hell they are, or they think they're a bunch of lunatics. You know, we chose this collective.
Yep. And that's that propaganda. They've been misinformed, haven't looked into it, or, you know, the propaganda that's been pushed against libertarians. And so I actually wrote about that on my new website, by the way. Kind of plug it in, libertyorelse.com. So I put my first blog on the website on that and discussing. I think most people really just don't understand or know what libertarianism is. And they should really look into it, because it's what the Republican Party says they are during campaigns. And in a sense, Democrats do the same thing in their campaigns. But in actuality, they operate under authoritarianism. And then they're at the point too now where they're like openly saying, we're going to take your guns and there's nothing you can do about it. At this point, they're like, yo, we're authoritarians and we're here to stay, because y'all ain't going to do nothing about it.
I got a little message for gun grabbers. They ain't going nowhere. Y'all need to deal with yourselves on this shit. And the guns aren't going anywhere. If you think you're going to stop getting people to sell guns, good luck. People will build them. They will print them. You're not going to stop us. This needs to stop right now. Nobody's taking guns, period.
Yeah. So I guess at the end of the day, with the libertarians and the liberty movement, I think one thing I've noticed with both of those two major parties, they get infiltrated a lot by, you know, bad apples or the feds or the CIA. And with the Libertarian Party, I don't know, I haven't seen or heard any of that going on, but we got to be really cautious too, you know, when we're doing what we're doing and who we can and can't trust. But we also got to remember, I like I told you previously in our other conversations we've had, libertarians need to focus on a few things, maybe 8 to 10 actual points all together collectively, and focus on that so people can understand and grasp what we're about. Because one minute someone can be like, oh, well, y'all sound like the Democrats. It's because somebody in the Libertarian Party is saying talking points from the Democrat Party, and vice versa. Or you sound Republicans because people are on the Libertarian Party using recycling those talking points. We're libertarians. We need to be very distinct about how we're different and how we are about individual liberties and freedoms for individuals. And actually make sure, like, the platform on the website is amazing. Read it. That is the closest thing I've seen to the Constitution out of any of these parties that I've seen, is what the Libertarian Party has to offer. And so I when we see that bull crap and them going back and forth with their beef, the left and the right, ignore them. Let them fight and kill each other off. Not for real killing them off. Like, you know, let them go after each other with their dialogue. Because I know how YouTube can be. And we, the sane people, can be here for those who are looking for sane people. Or when we go and talk to people, they got someone sane to speak to. Because most people, when you go and talk and you say, hey, I'm MAGA or I'm a Trump supporter, they may not want to talk to you anymore. They feel some kind of issue. You can say, oh, I'm Democrat, I'm liberal, you know, BLM. They don't want to talk to you anymore. But if you go and tell them you're a libertarian and you're about people's individual liberties and freedoms, they sit there and want to talk to you more. We don't have that national animosity towards us, but people will be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna jump on board. Maybe some people might ask, well, how can y'all win? You know, how can we do that with the Libertarian Party? Join us, work with us. We'll work in our communities. Let's start having cookouts together. Let's start having conversations together. Let's start organizing our communities together so we can start winning. Because what is this stuff for the back and forth, left and right stuff? There's a left and right in the libertarianism spectrum, but we can't afford to do what they're doing at the top, because they've been around for a long time. They got a lot of money to do that. We got to come together in a sense and focus on the main things: property rights, your individual having rule over your own body, you know, not being stolen from, not being called a criminal for advice. Those things that actually matter to multiple different communities. You understand how the Libertarian Party could really appeal to the Black community when they have been targeted with all these laws that were created to incarcerate them? And this is not like a brand new thing. This happens to everybody across the board. Now it's happened to everybody, but they don't know that. They don't understand that. So if they're like, oh, I'm going Democrats because they're going to give us some kind of justice. Hello, libertarians are about justice. Anybody, no matter what color you are, if you want justice, it needs to be here. Because right now we do not have a justice system at
Oh,
all. None.
no, it's an authoritarian system. There's no justice about it. You know, the fact that they keep people incarcerated back in the day when somebody committed a crime against somebody else, unless it was murder or some shit like that, they paid restitution. They paid that person money. Now they just throw those people in a cage. You know, whether, you know, if it was for fraud or something. Now, there's a very distinct creed when it comes to libertarian stuff. You know, there's bad laws, you know, but the creed is don't hurt people, don't take their stuff, property rights are everything.
And
If
no
you're
fraud.
violating those things, if there's no criminal, or I'm sorry, if there's no victim, there's no crime. There's no senseless bullshit with police at that point. There's no senseless incarcerations at that point.
Right.
You know? And also, like, you know, people will be like, well, libertarians are just Republicans who smoke weed or Democrats who like guns, which is not true.
Right.
We definitely smoke weed and like guns. I mean, that's true. But we're not Republicans or Democrats. A lot of us have come from both sides. Like I said, we weren't all born libertarians. We came from somewhere. You know, I'm a former neocon. You know, when I tell people who are thinking about libertarianism, you know, I'm like, hey, socially, we are very open. We are very socially accepting. We become extremely conservative when it comes to natural rights and fiscal responsibility.
And you guys have full-time, and myself included. I don't really say this like this. Like, I got a full-time job. This is a full-time job for me. But everyone's got full-time jobs, and they're still working in the party. Them acting like they're just potheads. Like, there's people with some white-collar careers in this party, as well as the people in the blue-collar careers. They got people who are like that in the party who still fight. And also, too, I've met some of them who are like, if you're ever in town and you need to stay here for something, my house is your house. They volunteer that. Don't pay for a hotel. If you're in this area, stay over here with us. Or they'll look out for you. When I need help, I'm trying to figure out who I've contacted you. I said, do you know anybody in Arkansas? Because this man's being targeted by the local sheriff department. And we're trying to figure out who's in Arkansas. That's how this works. This is what allies do. This is what, do you see that unless they're in the other two parties necessarily? No, unless you're a part of their club.
Right. Right. And it's a big club that they're in. And that's why they keep winning. But we need to, you know, I know people are waking up. People are waking up, but it's not in masses. And we need the masses to wake up, and it needs to happen quick, because 2024 is a huge opportunity for libertarians. Huge. Because
Major.
Nobody wants to see Trump versus Biden again. Nobody really wants that. And honestly, you guys, I don't think Donald Trump has a shot of winning at all. I think he has zero chance of winning an election, because not only, you know, did he lose in 2020, which, you know, whether it was stolen or not is irrelevant at this point. You know, we're a few years into it. Let's get past that. You know, all elections are rigged, period. If you believe that's the first one that's ever happened, you're sadly mistaken. I can promise you that.
Or I can say this too. It's a selection system. Like, you know, they pick who they want. People have this fake illusion that someone's picking in the primaries who they want to get in there, and then they get that person in the primary, and then it's running off of two terrible candidates, and it's just like, what? So you got me some shit and some shit with sprinkles. Which one do I want? And, you know, it's like, people didn't pick that. You always see people like, oh, I want this person, I want this person, I want this person. And they pick someone completely different than people want.
Well, we have so many bright and like genuinely good people out in the world.
Yeah, over 300 million people.
Donald Trump and Joe Biden. What the fuck?
And we think that we're making these decisions, you guys. We think, no, people aren't doing that. And it is a fact is they throw those people in our faces every single day. And, you know, you talk about them, so it's a familiar name. But I'm sorry, I really feel like people will vote for Satan. If he was on this earth right now, they will vote for Satan, because the angel or whatever doesn't have a chance of winning. So they would vote for Satan. They would literally do that.
I mean, you pretty much are voting for Satan if you're voting for any of these two guys right now.
Yeah.
I mean, this is bad. The country's a dumpster fire, and there's nobody else. You can't point the finger at libertarians why the country's a dumpster fire. That's one thing you cannot do. Libertarians did not do this.
Right.
Republicans and Democrats did this.
They sure did.
So, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, doing and expecting a
different results. Yep.
Well, here we are, 2024, here we come, and we're getting some more insanity thrown in our faces. I can't wait to see who the Libertarians get out there. There's a lot of good candidates. Right now I'm actually, I'm Team Lars Mapstead right now. I dig what he's doing. He's been on the show. A lot of people love Dave Smith. I love Dave Smith. I like choices right now. I don't need to just, have one guy thrown at me. Give me some choices. Give me some options. Let's not be like the Republicans and Democrats and be told who our front runners are. Let's let these guys battle it out on debate stages. Let's get Mike Tremont up there. Let's get, Chase Oliver up there. Let's get Dave up there. He hasn't even said if he's going to run yet, but let these guys battle it out, and like the Republicans and Democrats have debates. Even those debates are about as fixed as they get, I always say, I was never a Democrat. I'm probably keeping you forever and I won't keep you too much longer.
No, you're good.
If I was a Democrat and a Bernie Sanders supporter, I would not be a Democrat anymore, because for 2 times now in 2016, I'm a firm believer Bernie Sanders would have beat Donald Trump. I genuinely believe that. Everybody loved him. Not everybody, but
not me, but yeah.
Not me either. But I think a vast majority worked on Team Bernie. And then the Democrats were like, no, we're putting Hillary up there.
Yeah.
And then again in 2020, everybody was on fire for Bernie. And then the Democrats were like, no, we're putting Biden up there.
And the thing that makes it worse is he just sat back and let it happen.
Yep. Yeah, he didn't even get mad. He actually went and endorsed them. He endorsed them afterwards.
Hell no. Nope. I'll not be endorsing you. Here's my thing too. I'm running up against you and you talking mad shit about me. I'm not endorsing you.
That's the way
it
works.
No.
And the Republicans do the same thing, And even people that were against Trump, when all of a sudden he was out of office, all these Republicans like jumped on his back all of a sudden. Even Rand Paul did, which totally, I was sour about Rand Paul jumping on Trump's coattails in 2020. I was like, Rand, dog, you're so much better than that. Don't do that, because I did genuinely like him.
Well, I personally believe, you guys, that Apple did fall very far away from the tree. I don't think he's anything really much like his father.
No, his dad was special, man. That's the one who changed my life, politically when it came to everything. And
I'm in Kentucky right now. So,
What's up, Rand?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have Rand Paul is like, maybe if he's more like Thomas Massey, maybe, but no, he's definitely, he gets his kicks. I was talking about that stuff for those different groups. Yeah, he got pictures with PETA and Wayne Purcell and people like them. That's straight up socialism agenda. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's called politricks. That's what I like to call politricks, folks.
Yeah, behind closed doors, no one's talking about that stuff. But when you actually are a part of that community and helping them, and you're seeing who their enemies are, and it's like, oh, I mean, if I did not know this stuff was going on, I'd probably think Rand Paul was better. But I did also start seeing different things. I like what he did with Breonna Taylor. The whole thing with the no-knock warrants. I'll give him that. He's done good things. Yes. So my thing is, it's not that hard not to infringe people's rights. It's not that hard not to be corrupt. It's not hard to do the right thing. So why not just do the right thing all the time? It's not that hard. I'm sorry, you maybe give us 40% good. Oh, that's still failing. 40% is an F.
Well, if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense in that world, man. That's just what it is. It's all money game to them. They don't care about nothing but personal gain, period. Ice-T has come out and said that stuff. There's a song. He's got a metal band called Body Count. One of my favorite bands. There's a song called Civil War. And he's like, they don't care about nothing, just personal gain. And I'm like, you got that right, man. And, if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. And, with that being said, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. We're getting well past an hour. I really appreciate you doing this, and we got to do it again. And I'll come on your pod anytime. No, definitely. Let me know. We will continue to bash the state, and and that's exactly what we're doing is we are bashing the state and telling uncomfortable truths because it has to happen. Not everybody wants to
Yep.
hear the comfortable truths, but that's the only way to get it really out there,
That's true.
and before we go, tell us about your brand before we go so people can follow you and get on your stuff.
Thank you. It's Liberty or Else. If you go to libertyorelse.com, the website is up and live, and some of my previous podcast episodes are there. Some people actually like the last one I did. It had to do with incarceration rates in our country. And pretty much you'll find everything on libertyorelse.com. How to support, how to find my other platforms. And honestly, too, on social media, I'm Donnie the Don. So you can find me everywhere there. So I appreciate you having me on. I look forward to doing this way more frequently.
Oh, we could totally do this way more frequently.
Yeah, you'll be on my stuff as much as possible. I want to come on here as much as possible.
Yeah,
But here's another thing, too. We're supposed to help each other grow together. Like I
that's
said,
right.
it's allies.
Because it's funny, a lot of people in the podcast community will not help the other guy out. And I'm like, I will help everybody. I will share their shit, let's all do this together because, it's the only way we're going to grow. I'm not going to be like, oh man, don't listen to Liberty or Else, even though I just had you on my show, you know what I mean? Like, no, listen to Liberty or Else. Get into this girl's stuff. Donnie, you're doing great things. You're doing way more than me. You're doing activist work. You're going to state capitals and pumping your fists and raising hell. Me, I'm just a dude on a computer right now. I'm not really in that mix at the moment. And I probably can't be just because of the fact that I would get arrested because I've been known to get kicked out of city council meetings. So, Donnie, thank you so much for your time. Folks, get to know her. She's doing great things. Until next time, peace, love, and liberty. Be good.
Bye.